Enter, 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 enter. I did that one twice for some reason, and we're done. We'll close that. Okay, and let's see if the newly updated social stream works. Select live sources. Hey, I don't know why that's. I don't know why that comes up as. I don't know why this stream shows up in YouTube as a short. That makes no sense. All right, but it seems to have gotten it. So as far as I can tell, this post that's still going. Okay. Let me do one other quick thing, and then I'll start the social stream thing. So all right, let's hit the button. All right, that appears to have posted. Sensational. Let's close that. All right. I mean, it appears to be working. One never knows. So we'll see. And let me post right here. Paste. And paste and post. Okay, I got my live notification. I got a live notification. I don't know if you all get those, but I got a live notification. So makes it sound like a boat just went onto the stream. Anyhow, let's make sure this is working. So where's my social stream thing here? Oh yeah, it looks like it is. Wow, amazing. Well, maybe. Test, oh, I have to unmute. Test one. I think I heard the noise. I think I talked over it, but I'm pretty sure I heard it. I'm gonna be quiet this time. Yep, I heard it and it's appearing. Oh my, unbelievable. Everything seems to be working. Okay, well then we better jump on it before it stops working. Here we go. Because everything else, it says it's working. I don't know if I centered the reflector screen. Did I center the reflector? You can't even see. Wait, it was there a minute ago. Oh, I know why. I know what I did. I bet you this is it, right? That's it. Okay. It doesn't matter. It's working. That's all that matters. So we're good. Okay. Unbelievably, at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, everything, knock on whatever thing you want, appears to be working. So let's go ahead and let's move my keyboard out of the way. I can't believe all this stuff worked so quickly. In theory, we'll see. It could all crash any second, but right now it's working. So we're just going to go ahead and take advantage. Anyway, rare Saturday stream. Probably won't be all that long because the Yankees are going to be playing in about 40 minutes. And I won't be surprised if they absolutely blow it again today as they did yesterday. But let's not dwell on that. Let's just do some drawing. So what I'm working on here, I think I did this in the last stream too. This is the potential cover image that I am doing for Dr. Doug Bielmeier's upcoming album, which is titled Electric Rodeo Revival. And so per his request, what I'm doing is what is the word for it? A electric cowboy, a robot cowboy, basically. And then there's going to be a horse as well. So right now I'm primarily focused on the cowboy, as you can see. And okay, I want to click that thing off, kept going the way. So anyway, this is basic. I'm just laying in basic colors. These will likely be adjusted. What I'll probably do is send this to Doug once I've got the shading in and get his input. I've already shown him the basics without color, the kind of earlier version of this. And then what I want to do is do the colors, do the color gradations, send it to him, see what he thinks of the colors. Not this, the pink background is to reveal where I've screwed up the edges. I've realized that's a really good way to test where I've missed something on the edges of color fill. Not anything I think anybody would ever see, but I don't like it, so I'm just doing a quick scan to see if I missed any big obvious spots. I found one earlier on the face, and that's the type of stuff that pink background or whatever color you want to refer to that as, that will show you really, really quickly if you've got any big missing areas. So let me just scan through here. I think I'm okay. Oh, there's one. See that? Right there. That's a perfect example of something that, with a white background, it's a lot harder to see that, especially because that color is close to white, see? Even a little zoomed out, just going through, you won't see that. But when you shift the color back, that's going to stand out right away. So let's go ahead. I just hate having those edges left. So we're going to get rid of all that stuff. I thought I caught it all the last time, so I shouldn't say anything. All right, no, we're good. So let's continue. And basically, I'm just doing reduction of brightness on these as a way of doing shading. So I'm just doing a duplicate of the layer because this image is, I want to say, hold on, where's the canvas info? Not actually, oh, canvas. I want to say it's 12 by 12. Yes, it's 12 by 12. So actually I have a lot of layers available. I think I have 140 layers that are available on this, and I've only used maybe 40 of them. Let's take a look. Actually, that's a good question. Layers. 140 and 55 used, which means I still have 85 left. I have plenty of layers to mess with here. So this, unlike a lot of the bigger images, like if I was doing this at 18 by 24, then it would be more of a concern on how many layers I've been using. But I'm really, really happy that by making this a little smaller, which this is still far bigger. Oops, a little over the line there. This is still far larger than what the requirement that Doug gave me was. I mean, I think he said he wanted it at 1400 by 1400 pixels, and this is actually 36, so this is more than double. And I don't even know if that was at a 300 DPI. It was probably meant, because I don't know if he's going to have a physical release to this, so I don't know if there's any intent to have a physical packaging with this. But regardless, this will be well large enough to use for retail packaging if that's the route they want to go. And that's the thing. So when he told me the requirement, I'm like, okay, it's going to be, you don't have to worry about that, because I wanted to make sure it wasn't that they didn't want it I mean, it would not have mattered, just to be honest about it. It would not have mattered what size they quoted me, unless they literally, I mean, if you're talking about something on a wall size, like multiples of feet, 6 by 8 feet. Well, I can't do that on an iPad. I don't even know if the iPad, I don't know if this version of the iPad, because this is not the newest one by any stretch anymore. This is an M1, I want to say. I'd have to look to be sure. It's a great iPad. I'm not complaining. I have no reason to upgrade it at the moment unless there's some specific thing that comes up. But right now, it's perfectly adequate for what I normally do. But that would be the one thing that the iPad could not do, is I would not be able to make an image that huge that would be fit for printing. But like I said, that was not something that they needed. This is meant for like CD size, jewel case size type stuff. Speaking of which, I got my double CD for the Ghost in the Shell video game soundtrack in a 2 CD set. And baffling, I really do not understand this thing. So it came, I Am 8-Bit is the company I got it from. I don't know if they're probably still available. But anyway, it has a lenticular cover that it comes with. And a lenticular cover, if you're not aware, it is just the technical name for one of those covers, and almost everybody has seen a version of this, where if you tilt it one way, you see one image, you tilt it the other way, you see a different image. Very, very, I mean, it's a well-worn technology. Very effective, but absolutely nothing new. Something that's been around for a while. And anyway, it comes with this really beautiful lenticular cover that by default doesn't fit into the jewel case that it comes with. And it's such a weird decision to me, because it's such a beautiful cover. I mean, I understand that they might not want to by default put it as the case in case you want to keep it separate. That's fine. I don't mind that part. But it's not formatted in the proper dimensions to go into the jewel case. And I don't know many people who wouldn't want that to be the jewel case image. It's really bizarre. So I just took an X-Acto knife, and I mean, it wasn't a massive difference. And that's the other thing that's strange. It's not like they made it mini poster size where you'd have to do a lot of hacking to get it to fit. I literally had to cut probably a 16th, a 32nd of an inch off of it. I don't know what that is in millimeters. Sorry, everybody. For those who might not be using the imperial system, but whatever it is, it was a very, very small amount. I mean, it was probably, I don't know, thinking of the average length, the average thickness of a thumbnail. It was probably, I don't know, I would say maybe 5 to 6 thumbnail thickness lengths that I had to cut off. Very, very slim. I just used a T-square and put it onto a cutting mat and did it. And then it fit perfectly. And it looks great. And in the jewel case seems to have enough room to allow it to be in there. That's the other baffling part, is it seems to be designed, I gotta color that in, to be able to accommodate it, and yet they didn't put it in there or even cut it properly to that size by default. And I'm sitting here going, when you have something that's that well designed, Why would you not have the option so that somebody, because not everybody's going to do what I did. Not everybody's going to cut it. And like I said, because I have had jewel cases where when they've included alternate artwork or whatever, it's so tight that if you try to put it over what's there, it won't fit. And that's actually what I thought was going to happen. No, but it fit perfectly fine. So why would you not have that more easily available for people to do? Why would you make somebody have to do what I did and cut the thing? I mean, luckily, and that's another thing, where I had to cut it, just that length, it was a lot of dead space. There was just empty space. I didn't cut any image. There was nothing there, which again makes it feel like it was designed to be trimmed to go into the jewel case. And if it was something that looked like it was designed to be a poster, if you didn't cut it, that might make sense to me. But it isn't. So I'm just sort of baffled by that. You know what? We're going to go ahead and well, oh, I'm in the wrong layer. I got to go here. Did I double that? Yes. No? Yes? Wait a minute. Oh, I didn't. Okay, I have to double this. And then we have to bring this down too. So I did not bring this down. Wait a minute. I didn't? Oh, I see what I did. I had that one dark by default. I should have bring this one up, I think. 55. That should be the same. 5% should be the same. Let's verify that. Let's get our color wheel. Yep. Okay. It's slightly off. I knew it. Okay, so I gotta recolor that because I can't have it be slightly off or it's gonna bug me. Unbelievable. Okay. Well, that's how it goes sometimes. Let's just clear this out. I know it's something that almost nobody else would see but me, but it's still, I know it's there. So let's just do a quick fill here. I should have just taken the light color and duplicated it, but I don't think I'd kind of come up with my game plan at that point, so I was thinking I might just do it all the way I used to do it, but honestly, there's no reason to manually recolor everything in a different color if I'm going to just all bring it down to a uniform brightness adjustment anyhow, so that's okay. You're not sitting here to listen to me talk anyway, so I might as well show you how the process goes. As usual, there's nothing that I do that doesn't have some kind of error in it, or I have to go back and redo it again. So, but yes, actually I had time to do a stream today because my wife and her parents went to play bingo. And you know, I've never been a big fan of bingo. I don't have a problem with it, but I get bored of it within 2 to 3 games tops. But my wife and her parents, they love bingo. So I'm like, go. You know, it's fine. I don't need to go. I got stuff to do. I got to rehang a bunch of pictures because I completely rearranged the computer room. So pictures I got to rehang them anyway. I got stuff I can do. But I figured I was going to be working on this at some point. I had carved out space to make sure I worked on this because Doug doesn't need it right away, but I also don't want to just let it be a back burner thing. Fortunately, there's not urgency to it, so I have time to do it and not have to rush anything. But I also don't like the idea of just, oh, okay, he's not going to need this for a couple months. I'll just let it sit. Nah, I don't like doing that. Just want to get it, because if something has to be adjusted or whatever, and something could come up, they could decide the colors don't look right, or, they could make a decision on that. And I want to make sure there's time. I mean, I was really shocked when he asked me to do it to begin with, because I've seen the artwork on his albums and it's great. And I just didn't think my art was really suited for that. So I was like, wow, yeah, I'll do it. Sure. But my real concern was how fast he was going to need it, because I don't typically work quick. I'm certainly not the slowest artist I've ever encountered, but I don't work with a lot of speed either, so I was really like, oh man, I hope he doesn't need it fast. Where did I put all those little lines? I'm gonna go in there too, I think, and do some coloring. Where are these lines? Come on, where are you guys? No. That little line right there, I gotta get it. Down here? No, must be under these. Oh, I do remember it being under the, yeah, here, there. Just that little bit there that's bugging me. I gotta get it. Okay, let's grab that real quick. Trim that off. There we are. Bounce back down to our color. Color number 2. Okay, keep going here. So yeah, I'd already what's the word for it? Budgeted time today to work on this. And I thought, well, why not? I mean, normally I'd worked on this when like my wife and I are watching the baseball game, because you don't have to pay attention to every single thing for a lot of baseball games. Depending, sometimes more stuff happens than others, but there can be long stretches, even though I know people think, there's a lot of people who think baseball is utterly boring and they can't stand it. And without a doubt, it is undeniable that there are times where baseball can be slow. Cannot deny that is the case sometimes, but I do love baseball. One of the reasons I like it is it's a sport where I can, do stuff like this in the background and there's still things happening and it still gets exciting. But I know it can be a very slow game for some people. It's certainly a lot faster than it was before they introduced the pitch clocks and the batting clocks and limited the amount of timeouts and everything. I mean, baseball, what's funny is it really is amazing. I went back the other day because you can watch old baseball games through the MLB service and all that stuff. And I went back and watched one from like 10 years ago. And wow, there's so much delay in some of those older games where there's no clock. It really is amazing how much faster, but it's still not, it can still be slow. But in comparison to what it used to be, oh no, that's the wrong spot. I gotta cut that, and I gotta cut that part out. Okay, got it. Let's take that sketch layer off. But that is one nice thing about baseball, is that slower pace does work for doing stuff like this. A lot of times I'll have the iPad and I'll be drawing during a baseball game. Because, like I said, if I start to hear that something's going on, I'll look up when the pitch is thrown. But, if they, fouls it off. Well, you're going to have a good 10 to 20, 30 seconds while the pitcher and everybody resets and all that. And, I can be doodling in between that. Or if it's, if just there's not much happening, then at least I'm getting some work done. So that was my plan anyway. But I thought, well, I have about an hour of time before the game starts. So I might as well just jump on. It's just something in case there's people that are hanging around and want to watch for a little bit, and we can do that. So that will go here as I get this thing done. So I'm really happy with how because Doug had sent me some sample images, which I'm sorry I didn't load them here. I could have shown you what he had sent me. So we had generated some images, just kind of quick ideas, and there was one that he really liked that was a very cartoonishly stereotypical robot cowboy that was kind of slumped over on a horse, and the robot cowboy looked sad enough. I mean, you could tell it wasn't a happy robot. But I thought, oh yeah, I like that idea, but I wanted to do it more close up. I really wanted to get the facial, like because that image, the one he sent me, was kind of, I don't know, I would say if you were standing in front of the horse and the robot, they were probably about, I'm just looking for distance, 10 to 15 feet away from you. But I really wanted that kind of close up, this really very, very clear image of a depressed cowboy. I didn't want the cowboy to be crying or anything. See, there's this balance where you're trying not to make it where it's a utterly depressed image to look at. I don't think that's particularly fun. So I wanted it to be more like the cowboy is just realizing that he doesn't really care about this anymore. And so I found this image really quickly, actually. I was surprised how quickly because my search was wistful cowboy. Not sad, not depressed, wistful, which is a very specific word. You don't hear it used very often, but it's to me, it has I never actually looked the definition up. Let's see what wistful means. Maybe I'm a complete idiot. Maybe I'm using this all wrong. Let's see. Hold on a minute. I could be misinterpreting this word. There are words I think I know the meaning of, and I'm wrong. Let's see. What does wistful mean? I'll zoom out so you can see the whole image while I'm doing this. Full of melancholy, longing, or wishful yearning, expressing sadness or yearning, longing, wishful, desirous. I think that's how you're supposed to pronounce that. Of being something that you desire, and that's longing. And I think for me, what is in my mind for this image is that the cowboy, in the cowboy's mind, he's thinking back to when the rodeo was something he enjoyed doing, and he's realized that he no longer does, and he wishes he still enjoyed it. Now, the image of the horse is going to be the complete opposite. The horse is still going to be thrilled about. The horse is going to be very kinetic, and like the picture that I did has this mane of hair shooting up, and it's going to be very electrified and like very vibrant. So it's going to be the contrast of this. But this is just, and I have to figure out how I'm going to do the shirt. The shirt in the reference image is striped, and I think I want to keep that idea, but I'm going to try to make them into like circuits. But not, I don't want it to be too busy, so it's probably going to be very, very broad stroke kind of circuit paths and stuff like that. But I gotta figure that out. But wistful, yeah, wistful, it turns out was exactly the right word, and I interpreted it correctly. Because again, I don't want it to be like this cowboy is utterly despondent and depressed about where he is. More of that he's remembering when a rodeo was something he was really excited about, and he's understood that those days are now over. It's more like that. So that's the goal, and we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead. That's the lower image. Let's go ahead, and we're going to do a replicate of that, and we're going to knock this down by 10%. So it should be a little darker. There we are. Come in, and that's only going to really be for those two outer sections. This middle one will be lighter, and we'll do the outer ones. We'll have the, oh, actually, that's right. It doesn't share that border, so I can do this, and that one's fine. And we'll just come in here, and I got to be careful on the edges with this giant paintbrush. It can really, really annihilate the edges. So I don't want to use the paintbrush for the very edge here. But yeah, that's the idea. And this color, I don't know if this is going to be the final color. I'll basically, see what Doug thinks. I have no, and I told Doug this when we were talking about it, I'm like, I don't get all precious about my stuff. I've said this before on the stream. I'm going to repeat it again. I don't get precious about images I'm doing for other people, because ultimately, I am the core idea of this, which is the sad cowboy. That's the thing I wanted, and I got it. And the fact that Doug liked that, that's the important part for me. As far as the details of this, like if he wants to change or refine, like if for some reason he wants the shirt not to have stripes and he wants it to be plain, fine. I don't care about that. Like I'll let that go in a second. That's not the stuff I really care about. The overall feeling is what's more important. And when he looked at this, he said, yep, that's it. So that's the part. Once I have that locked in, everything else is just secondary. I'll figure the rest of it out. And I don't care if things need to get changed. All right, so. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's do this. We're going to duplicate that. So I kind of have to do a few things here. Why is it trying to select that? Oh, because it did the wrong thing. All right, now is that the same? I bet you that's not the same. No, it's not. I can tell just looking at it. Okay, no problem. So what we need to do is delete that. I need to duplicate this. I got to bring this up, and I got to knock this down by 10%, and then that will match the one on the bottom. There we go. Right, and now we take our eraser, and what we care about is this needs to be here, here. I may need to create another line there. I think I do, actually. It's definitely going to be in there, and I think there, and then here and here. Okay, so now the... Oh! No, I did that completely backwards. I completely reversed what I was trying to do. Okay. I need to do this everywhere that doesn't need to be dark. So that... let me see what's under here. Okay, so... I wonder if I did that. No, that's fine. Oh yeah, no, I did. I know what I want to do. That's gonna be darker. Okay, so that goes away. That goes away. This... hold on. Yeah, this goes away. This goes away. No, wait, let me look at that one. Yeah, this goes away. I might leave that. This goes away. That can stay. Let's see what's under here. Yes, okay, so this goes away. This goes away, and this goes away. Yes. And then this goes away, this goes away. Leave that. Or no, this goes away. All right, that's where we'll start. Okay, so let's start refining this. Okay, take that all off. This is going to be a little bit of kind of feeling this out as I go along. So this, because that's that layer, right? Yes. Okay, yeah, no, I got this where I want it. No, I got it. So that, and then that comes down to here. Whoop. I don't know if those red eyes are going to stay either. That might come off too evil. I kind of think it will, but I'll give Doug the option there. But I think red traditionally, when in terms of communicating emotion, it tends to be more for anger as opposed to sadness. Hey, Chameleon, happy Saturday. It is going very well. How are you? Hope you're doing all right. I am doing great. It's a nice day. I have time to draw. I really can't complain about much of anything at the moment. Oh, wait, is that going down there? Yes. So this continues through here, and then down there, because that's going to be that. Yep, okay, I see where this is happening. I see what I got going on here. This comes up. That's going to stay dark right there. That comes, no, that stays, so we're going to just leave that alone. Get rid of all this. All this. Okay. Right. And that's already dark, so we'll just do this. Pretty good. Great. That's great. Hey, that's what the weekends are supposed to be for. Weekends are supposed to be for relaxation. That's the whole point of them. That used to be the point of them. Unfortunately, a lot of people have to work weekends, which is a bummer. Just a friend of mine. Well, I shouldn't say a friend of mine. Acquaintance. Just because, I don't overestimate things, but working on the cowboy guy. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I was talking about. These are basic. I don't know that these are all going to be permanent, color-wise, but I know I do like the face color, but that's going to be up to Doug because this is his image, so I want to make sure that, he likes what he sees. So if he doesn't like that color, then the nice part about these images is if somebody says, well, I'd like it to be more purple, hey, guess what? That's all I got to do. It's that easy. I tell you, it's so much easier now where I can just shift the color. So for some reason, or if he wants it to be more green, okay, there's green. If he want, that's really skin color. I wouldn't want to use that, but like, okay, he wants like a rusty red, we could do everything. We could even do like a blue, more of a blue than this is like a teal. So whatever he wants to do will be no problem. So that's the beauty of doing it on an iPad, is this stuff is so easily adjusted now. I say this often, and it's because I really do mean it. The amount of flexibility that having a digital canvas gives you compared to when there weren't digital canvases is just so incredible. To be able to shift a color without having to, for example, I did a painting the other day, and I just didn't like it. And I didn't want to waste the canvas because, the canvas was fine. So I had to repaint the whole thing black a couple of times. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, you know what? I'm happy with it so far. I'm just trying not to screw it up somehow. But so far, I got to tell you, I'm happy with it. It's working, and it's what Doug wants, and it's for his album, so I want to make sure it's what he wants, and he's on board with it. So as long as that's the case, then, I'm not complaining. That's great. Oh, you know what? There's no line there. Oh, let's put a line in there. I like having the colors demarcated would be the term. Let's see. I think it's 56 maybe. Yeah, let's use 56. Let's just put a quick line right in there. Just so we can keep this nice and consistently clean. Actually, you know what? I'll arc it down a little more than that. Let's have that come down and meet this. And then I'm going to close that up a little bit. There we go. Better. Yep. I don't need to do it on the other side because that one doesn't have a dark. That doesn't have a different color, so we'll be okay. Is that this? Yes. All right, back to it. Yeah, so I'm happy that he's happy, and that the image that the reference I picked and the way the facial expression came out works. Now, I was telling Doug this too. This will eventually get reversed. So I will be flipping this so that he is facing to the right instead of left. I can't draw faces that are facing the right, or facing to the right, I should say. I think it's because my hand would obscure too much of the image compared to doing it from the left side. So, really, it was both. So when I was in high school and before that, we had art classes, but they weren't really, art classes weren't done where they thought you would actually be an artist. When I was in the younger, whatever you want to call it, high school and earlier, art classes were really more geared just to have everybody have the experience of, doing art to see if you liked it. But it was never positioned as something you would do as a job. You know what I mean? It was more of just like, oh, art class. Just see if it's something you might want to do as a fun hobby. And so in those years, it was more self-taught because art classes were constructed where you basically just painted still lifes. Still lives? I don't know how you're supposed to pluralize that. Still life was the primary thing, or drawing things you could see. So in those days, I was drawing like the Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. So that was more of self-taught as far as the cartooning and type of stuff like this. Like this would not be, now maybe it's different today. I wouldn't be drawing things like this in art class. They would say, okay, here's a table with an apple and a bottle and a pot with flowers in it. Draw that. And then they would tell you how well you capture the colors and the lines and all that type of thing. So at that point, it was all just me doodling and figuring out that I didn't want to do that. So in that way, it was self-taught that I realized I was not going to be a still life artist. I wasn't going to look at something. I wasn't going to be doing portraits. I mean, I have done portraits here and there, but it's not my strength. I've had people ask me, oh, could you draw a picture of my father or whatever? And I generally say no, because it's just not the thing I do. I can do it. Some people have very striking faces with very particular lines, and that makes it a lot easier, but a lot of people don't. Doesn't mean that they're good looking or ugly or anything. Their features are not harsh, I guess, or they don't fit in the way that I see them where I can reproduce them. So up till high school, it was really self-taught. My senior year, I did take like a mixed multimedia class, and that felt like it was more for people who actually were considering doing this stuff in college. And then in college, it was art college. I went for art. And that's where it was a lot of, okay, doing life drawings, focusing on, anatomy, that type of thing. That was actually for people who wanted to try to have a career as artists. And so that was then learning things. And I will say college, I feel like I learned a lot more than I ever did in high school or anything earlier. So that stuff was a combination, because if you go to a good art school, not something I necessarily recommend, but if you were to do it, let's see, I've never had a lesson in my life. I thought about signing up for them, but I don't have time for that right now. You know what? Well, there's something else. There was no YouTube for this type of stuff when I was younger. There weren't art channels. Now, honestly, that's really why I've started painting again, was the Bob Ross stuff that's on YouTube. It's not because I suck at painting. I can't do painting. I've done one painting recently that I wasn't watching something when I did it. And honestly, when you look at it, you can tell it's just me taking the things from the Bob Ross paintings and redoing them in a different way. It's not like I suddenly invented something. I didn't. I'm basically doing the Bob Ross painting style, but I just came up with the subject myself. But that's what I'm saying is, I would never have done that without the Bob Ross YouTube channel. No way. So now, you are actually in a much better position to figure out what you want to do and find tutorials. There's whole online courses you can take that are going to be far cheaper than going to college. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not one of these people who's like, you should or shouldn't go to college. I think that when I was younger, they said, oh, if you didn't go to college, you were like a failure. I think that's over with, which is good, because it's nonsense. People learn in different ways. College is not for everybody. And it's a lot of money to spend if you don't know that you need it. Let's put it like that. But when I was younger, it was not really an option. The expectation was you're going to college. So I did. I found it to be valuable. This is just me saying, for me, I'm really glad I went because I got exposed to a lot of very different people who had very different lives than I did. And that's probably one of the few things that not going to college you can miss out on. Now, that might not apply if you are surrounded and surround yourself by lots of people who are different than you. If you do, then great. Then you're not really going to get that out of college necessarily. But I grew up where most of the people around me, except for in a huge stroke of luck, the two closest neighbors on two of the three sides were very different people. But that was only later on. When I was really young, everybody was like me. Everybody looked the same. Everybody was kind of the same, all middle class, all basically white people and all that type of thing. And I didn't see a lot of people who were any different. Then as I got older, I got a lot of different people around me. Well, I'll tell you what, I barely got through high school too. And I will say I was not a great student ever. So I understand that. And that's what I'm saying is you have an advantage now because you can find people in the communities that you want so easily. You can find groups of people who are artists who are really, really different. You can interact with them so easily. Whereas when I was younger, if I wanted to find somebody who was different than me, I would have to drive or be driven somewhere. There weren't art classes on YouTube. There was none of that stuff. Now you can do that. And that's what I mean is, hey, you know what? I'm a terrible student. Test taking, memorization. Oh God, I'm awful at all that stuff. So I was never a good student. I mean, I barely got out of high school. Seriously, I barely made it out. My parents were, and I think they kind of hit it, but it's not like I didn't realize. I think they were genuinely surprised that I made it out of high school. And honestly, thinking back to it, so am I. Because it's not geared for me. That's not how I learn. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm ADHD at the very least. And that's just, one of the reasons. But also just, a lot of stuff wasn't, I have a hard time being interested in stuff that's not interesting to me. I just don't. So when they talk social studies, I don't care. Do I care where Tennessee is located in relation to Ohio? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I had a learning problem and I struggled with it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And that's the thing is, again, today, now, people are aware of that stuff. They weren't testing for any of that when I was in school. They just basically called your parents and said your kid's not paying attention. That's as much, unless you had a legitimate, I shouldn't say legitimate that way. At the time, what was seen as a legitimate learning problem was dyslexia, where they could tell that you couldn't read because you were reversing. Like I have cousins who have dyslexia where they reverse the letters, or they can't keep the words straight if they're reading them, but they can if you say them to them. And they can write fine, but they can't read it. Things like that. That's what they considered an actual learning problem. There was but they weren't diagnosing ADHD. They weren't looking for it. They weren't testing for it. Teachers weren't taught to look for it and know what the signs of it were. So nobody was looking for that, so they just said your kid's not paying attention. It might have been a completely different thing if I was in high school today and they actually knew what to look for and were able to adjust things. I don't know. I might still be a crappy student. I can't pretend that that's the only thing. I might have been a garbage student anyway. I really don't know. But certainly, I think there is an element of that to it, and that was just not something that anybody was looking for. Now there's a lot more awareness for it. There's a lot more that I think now people can get help with, and that's great. That was not available to me because it was not a consideration. It just simply was not. But like I said, that doesn't mean I think everybody has to go to college. I don't. I don't think it's the necessity that at one point people thought it was. Do I think there are some good reasons to go? Yeah, I do. But that's me saying that. You have to make that decision for yourself, and that decision is going to be different for everybody. So, and again, it depends on what the conditions are. Because I really do feel like I got to see a whole different world of people and what their experiences were that I just wasn't going to get if I had just stayed home. But that's also a world that was much more closed off than it is now. You didn't have the internet and everything else. You didn't have Discord and Instagram and all whatever avenues you used to socialize with people. All that stuff was either non-existent or so early it wasn't like it is now. So, because I know the popular thing is to say that all those things are, terrible for you and everything. Let me look at something here. Yeah, it's the same color, so I thought. But they're really not. You know what? I think. Well, there's that too. Yeah, I think I've said something about that too before. It was like, if you want to be a lawyer, you're going to have to go to school. If you want to be a doctor, you're going to have to go to school. And that's good because, those are professions where you really do know, you do need to have to know that stuff. You can't just self-teach yourself to be a brain surgeon. It's just, I'm sure there are people who think you can. I wouldn't want to go to a brain surgeon who was self-taught. Maybe that's just me, but I would not be, I wouldn't be too thrilled with that. I would say that I would probably avoid that. So there are definitely careers where it makes more sense. Absolutely. And for some people, if they, there are people who do benefit from that type of learning. So there probably are artists. You know what I just realized? I'm going to make this one darker. I'm going to go over to here. I'm going to fill this in. Oops. Okay, well, not like that, I won't. There are probably people who will benefit from going and doing life drawing classes. Because maybe they do, and that's the other thing. There are people who learn better that way. There's a friend of my wife, because my wife and she teaches, what do you call it? Different exercise courses at gyms. So like body combat, that type of thing. She does that type of thing. And there's a person that she works with, and that person basically will, when they get, because they get new releases, right? They send out the new kind of training routines or whatever for them to learn. And one of the other trainers that she's very good friends with, she has to write all this stuff down, like the time, beginning and end of each of the exercises, what the song is, some of the actual moves like kicks or punches or elbows or knees or whatever. She writes it all down as a sequence. And that's how she learns. My wife can't learn that way. My wife has to watch and replicate. So it also depends on how your learning style is. But me, I'm an artist and future author, and I work at a regular job on the side, and I didn't really need college for it, although it'll probably help a lot. I just can't. Hey, you know what, though? Would it help a lot? See, that's the thing. Maybe, maybe not. It's hard to know that. So if at this point, and just me, if it was me, if at this point you don't feel like you're missing it, if you're able to do the stuff you want to do, then it probably wasn't something, you might have gotten something out of it, but would it be enough to make it worth it? Maybe not. So, like I said, it's a tricky thing because I think a lot of people just assume that that's what they have to do. And as you said, it's very much dependent on what your career is and your learning style. Because I remember people that were in the college I was in and they left. And I remember I talked to some of them long after, and they said, yeah, it wasn't helping me. I think, like you said, they were more stressed than anything else. They weren't getting something beneficial. What they were getting was stressed out. And so for them, leaving was the best idea. It's a good thing that they did, because I don't think they would have benefited from staying there. If anything, it might have driven them away from what they wanted to do. And that's the worst thing. You don't want it to be where not only does it not help you, but it actually makes you not want to do whatever you went there to do, right? I mean, that's a terrible outcome. But I think for some people that actually does happen, is they're driven away from something because their experience of it is not in the right setting. And that's a shame. And I think it happens probably more often than a lot of people are aware. I think it happens quite a bit, actually. So, would it have been better for you? Maybe, but maybe not. So maybe you ended up exactly where you needed to be, the way you needed to be there. And that's not bad. That's okay. Yeah, I think I like that better. So we're going to go with that. Let's bring that up here. And where are we at? Wow, 45 minutes. Well, that was what I was aiming for. So, geez. I didn't know if I was actually going to go that far or not, but that's good. Let me think about how I see this. Well, if I figure, yeah, no, you are exactly correct. If you are getting the work that you want to be doing, no, that does not sound cocky. That's a practical assessment of what your skills are and how much work you're getting. If nobody was giving you any work, then that's where you have to sit there and say, yeah, maybe I'm missing something. But if you're getting work, then I don't know why you would need anything else. So I don't think that's cocky. I think that's just being realistic in what you're looking at. So long as somebody's not saying to you, well, I would give you this work, but you don't have this. And let's say it's a college degree. Because there are jobs that are like that, where they say, well, you have to have a requirement of, bachelor's in computer science, right? You're not going to go to work for the top cybersecurity firm in the country if you don't have some computer science background. If you went to school for cooking, for example. And don't get me wrong, that's not me slamming cooking. I'm saying it's not the right fit for the job. So there are places where they would say, no, we can't take you because you are missing this particular education. If that's not happening to you, then you're not missing anything. And as you said, you can probably get whatever you think you're missing online somehow, and you'll be fine. And also, it's not like you can't, if you realize later, go to school and get whatever you need. You can absolutely do that. I finished my degree way later than most people who go to college in life. It was only 3 or 4 years ago. And that was really just for me. I didn't need it for anything. I just thought, I want to finish this thing. That was just completely for me because I was so close to finishing it. But it's not like there was a job where they said, well, you don't have this, so you can't have it. Then I would be like, wow, what a moron that I was not to finish that. That has never happened. It has never happened where somebody said, oh, well, you don't have this, so you can't get the job. And I think that's because, I've been fortunate too that a lot of the places that I've interviewed, the people doing the interviewing weren't basing the hiring decision entirely on, if I went to school or not. And that's really how it should be, just as a completely separate thing. They should not hire people based on what degree they have. They should hire people based on whether they're a good fit for the position that they need to be in. That really should be the only requirement. Unfortunately, it's not a lot of times, but it should be. And so I've just been very fortunate that way. Okay. Well, just looking at this. I think I'm going to stop here for now. I kind of like where it goes. I think I might have to lighten up on, I think the dark areas might be a little too dark compared to the other ones, or maybe it's no, it's not the saturation. I'm wondering if I need to bring them up a few degrees just to make them slightly, like that. Maybe like that. Just looking. Just to make it so it's not so harsh. Maybe 53 is good. I think 53 is good. Let's go to 53. Yeah, I feel like that's a little more subtle. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to stop here, I think. And I'm going to just let this percolate for a bit before I look at it again, because I think that's a very good idea. I've said that before. It's a very good idea to just sometimes let things sit. So, anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with this image, so I will probably still be working. Well, maybe on the next stream. Maybe I'll start doing the horse. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But anyway, that was nice doing a little stream on a Saturday. A little something different because I had the time. And thank you for stopping by. And Chameleon, I think you're fine, honestly. Not that I'm some kind of life coach or anything, because I'm certainly not. But I think you're making the correct assessment on your stuff. If it's not impacting you now, then I wouldn't be all that concerned about not having formal education. I think for some people, it's something they need and something they want, and I think for other people, it isn't. Like so many things in life, I think we're at a point where people realize that it's an individual decision, and there's no right or wrong answer for everybody, not as a general rule. So you follow the path that's working for you, and you only change it when it's not working for you anymore. I think that's just kind of a good way to approach most things in life. So you do the thing that's working for so long as it's working. If there's a point where it isn't, well, that's when you evaluate whether you need to do something different. And that's it. So anyway, have a wonderful rest of your Saturday if you're watching this live. And if you're watching it later, have a great rest of your whatever it is for you. And go out and support a creator that you enjoy. Not me, I'm fine for the moment. I mean, the world is a really wacky place at the moment, so that could change by the next stream. But at the moment, I'm doing fine. So go find a creator who needs your help and do what you can to help them, whether it's donating a few bucks here or there, reposting their stuff, or talking about them someplace so that other people can find them, or just sending them a nice note. That's something I actually have to do today. There's somebody I have to send an email to because they just got laid off, and I feel bad for them. And so do something nice. Do something nice for somebody else. I'll leave it at that. All right, Chameleon, thanks for stopping by, and everybody else who's watching this now or later, doesn't matter to me. Just appreciate you hanging out for a bit. And until the next stream, thanks for being here, and take care.